This next topic is a subject that's debated in homes all across the country. Should you borrow money from yourself from your retirement plan, your 401k plan? Stewart Welch is here today to talk about the pros and the cons. Good to see you. It is something that people consider. On the outset, most of financial advisors say it's not a good idea. But you said there are circumstances.
Yeah, well, it's not a good idea. So it's symptomatic of that you're having financial problems if you're having to go to your 401k. So yeah, people do it. I mean, we're coming off of 2008. It's been a pretty rough 4 or 5 years, and people are hurting, and they're looking for places to get money to solve financial problems.
Now, in this particular situation, you're talking about the retirement plans of the company you're currently working for. So this becomes something you have to pay back, right?
It is. So the law says that, first of all, let's talk about the limits. So you can borrow up to the lesser of 50% of your vested balance up to $50,000, whichever is lower.
Okay.
So $50,000 is a big chunk of change. So to get 50 out, you'd have to have 100 of vested balance in there. And once you take it out, the law requires that be paid back over a 5-year period of time in installments. So that's automatically going to come out of your paycheck. Yeah, it's going to come out of your paycheck. So it's going to happen automatically.
And a lot of people may not do the $50,000. You've said you have seen a lot of people, if they need a couple of thousand, a few $1,000s to help them get through a situation. That's when you've seen people do it a lot.
It's whatever the amount is. I've seen everything all over the board, barring little amounts, barring big amounts.
Okay, so what happens? Again, it just comes automatically back out of your check, right? It's easy to get.
It's easy to get. So when you talk about the pros, it's easy to get. There's no credit approval involved. It's a competitive interest rate. So you do have to pay interest, but now you're paying interest to yourself. So that interest is actually going back as you're making those installments back into the plan. You're also making interest payments into the plan. Okay. And that's your money.
Okay. But you've got to consider that you're going to be living on less in order to pay that back.
You would be, so your paychecks automatically come down. Okay. So one of the big negatives, Janice, is that if you were to be terminated or to terminate your employment, you have to repay that loan within 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you don't, typically that money's gone, right? Because they borrowed it for something. Sure. And that whatever they did, it's gone. And if you don't do that, then what happens is it is treated as ordinary income, and you potentially are also subject to a 10% federal penalty. So that's kind of the gotcha. You want to pay a lot of attention to that. Okay.
So, and if you're under 59 and a half, there's a lot about that too, right?
That's where the 10% penalty comes in.
That's the magic number.
That's if it's under 59 and a half, you're potentially subject to the 10% federal penalty, as well as ordinary income. Okay.
So what I'm hearing is there are a lot more negatives than there are positives unless you are in a hardship situation.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't do it. It's for us, we would say it's your last. It's your source of money of last resort. So you're trying to look at everything else before you get there. And but we do see people do it, and we see people do it successfully. So it's one of the financial options that's available to them.
And if it helps get you out of a situation at that moment, it may be a good thing as long as you're paying it back down the road.
Particularly if you use it as a wake-up call to, I've really got to start paying attention to my finances.
Can't run the credit cards back up after you borrow from your 401k. All right. It is a subject that a lot of people talk about. Stuart Welch, thank you so much.
Thanks, Janice.
All right, still ahead, big news.